Guys, I'm Marc Ventura. Today I wanted to record this video to answer, a question that I get many clients ask me. And it's really about, what is negative gearing and more so, how does it actually work? How do we understand it? It seems to be, whilst most investors use it, it's not really understood. Something of the domains of accountants and financial planners, but the end customer or the investor generally doesn't always understand it. So today I wanted to run you through an example. Forgive me for my scribble on the board at the moment, but it might be a little bit difficult to see, but I'm going to take you through an example of what does it look like for an individual who buys an investment property. Let's understand what the income is, what are the expenses, and then what is your end tax position? Because essentially all negative gearing is the taxman allowing you to claim back the losses of that property, to keep that property. Because whenever you buy a property, there's obviously rental income, but there's a whole lot of expenses to keep that property. I guess in today's situation where interest rates are really low, those property losses are reduced. But this is just going to show you an example of what does it look like? How does negative gearing work? So negative gearing again is all about just the taxman allowing you to reduce your losses. So your income less or your expenses, generally there's a loss at the end of it, and the taxman allowing you to claim that off your actual salary from your employment and stuff like that. So I want to take you through what I think is a pretty simple explanation, just showing you how does it all work and what are the benefits of actually negative gearing and how does that help you when you're buying a property at the end of the day. So I'm going to sort of take you through essentially a pre-done example that we've already put together. So I won't be just magically pulling numbers out of my head, but something we've already gone through just as an explanation. So what I'm going to turn to is I'm going to turn to the board and start showing you how do we actually work out someone's negative gearing or their tax position when they buy an investment property. So in this example, we're going to start with someone that's got a 100K salary, $100,000 salary, and on that $100,000 salary, you're generally going to be paying roughly around $26,117 to the taxman. Now in this situation, the person or the investor's purchased a property that is roughly about $500,000 in value, and we're roughly going to be getting some rent of around, I'm just pulling some figures out here, of roughly around $20,000 a year. So I'm going to place that figure just there. So in essence, the investor's total income now is essentially $120,000. But the tax position, we'll always still base it on your actual salary component there. The next situation we're going to start looking at now, to have this $500,000 property, now what are some of the expenses that are involved? So essentially we're going to be looking at the first expense that's going to be coming in is interest. So let's say we've got a loan, an interest rate of around 4.5% on a $500,000 loan. The interest is roughly going to be around $22,500 on that interest. And let's start looking at some of the other expenses that the taxman's going to allow you to claim. So some of the other things would be insurance, so building insurance and stuff like that. So let's say it's $800. We're going to have some rental fees. So obviously if you're renting your property out through a real estate agent, they'll charge you some fees, which could be 5% of your rent. I'm just going to put a nominal figure here of about $500. One of the big things that you can claim, which is really just a paper claim, but it's one of the things that help you reduce your income, is depreciation. So depreciation on the building is the main one we focus on here. Now when you're claiming depreciation, you're allowed to claim 2.5% of the actual construction or the building value on an annual basis. So let's say the building cost was $250,000 in this instance. We can claim for this example roughly 2.5% a year, and that's roughly $6,250 that we can claim as an expense when we're calculating your negative gearing or your tax position. Some of the other expenses, and this will really come back to the type of property that you're purchasing, but let's say you've got some body corporate expenses. So I'm putting here roughly $2,000 a year. Let's say your council rates, I'm going to throw in about $1,000 for council rates. Let's say land tax is another expense that you can claim, so I'm going to put in about $1,000 here. And then also some things you might get, some property maintenance. So it could be, needing to fix things in the property. It could be, lawn mowing and garden maintenance and stuff like that. So I'm going to put in probably another sort of $500 here. So we've already pre-calculated these figures. So pretty much in total, your expenses are going to be coming up to roughly around the sort of, $34,550 mark is sort of what we're sort of looking at from that side of things, from the expenses. So we've got our total income, we've got our expenses. Now, these expenses can actually will be taken off this $120,000 figure here. So that roughly leaves us with a new taxable income of $84,450. So when the taxman goes to sort of calculating your income, we're now going from sort of this 120 mark down to this sort of $84,000 mark. And what that means is your new tax is actually going to be recalculated on this $84,000 mark. So what that now means is that the tax that someone should be paying on $84,000 is more like, roughly $20,187 is what that should be looking like. So if previously on your salary of $100,000 you were paying essentially $26,117, and now because of all the deductions of buying this property, your new salary is calculated on 84. The new tax that you should really be paying is $20,000. Your employer would have taken that out of your salary, and now that's what your real taxable position should be. So really, now what you should be finding is roughly your tax refund, the refund you should be getting is roughly $5,930. And this is how we work out your tax position when you're buying an investment property at the end of the day. So I hope this gives you a clear idea around how your income is worked out, what all your expenses look like, and what potential tax refund you're going to receive. Now I'm going to take you over to what does it then look like in reality. So let's say, the rent you received is $20,000. The expenses, the real expenses of your property is $34,550 less than $6,250, because that's actually not really an expense there. So that's going to bring you down roughly to having, roughly $28,300 in property expenses. So if that's the rent, that's the expenses, then essentially in reality, you've made an $8,300 loss on this property in that tax year. Now what we then do is we know we've received a $5,930 refund, less $5,930, which is our refund from the tax man. That roughly means that, this property has cost us roughly $2,370 for the year to keep. That's what it's cost you to have this, which is roughly, around sort of, what have we got there? Roughly around sort of $50 a week, approximately, or $45 a week to keep this property. So I hope this gives you a really good example around, how does negative gearing work? And then how does that actually relate to your actual physical expenses of keeping this property over time? Now naturally what will happen is over time, as the rent increases, then this cost here to hold the property can potentially decrease as well. And that's something that when we're working with our clients who are investors, we've got some specialised software that shows you what does it look like over a 1, 3, 5 and 10 year period, and when will this property really start making money and start costing you money at the end of the day. So I hope this has been really valuable and helped you out and shown you a lot of information around what is negative gearing, how does it work, and how does it ultimately affect your bottom line, which is your profit. So have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.